The founder of M-Town Records, Barry Gordy, once said that Bobby DeBarge was the most talented artist the label had ever signed. However, after Bobby's death, his family revealed some long-kept secrets about his early life and the struggles of the DeBarge family. This video goes into those revelations and the tragic events that marked Bobby's life. But first, let's look back at his early years to better understand the events that shaped this famous musician. Robert Bobby DeBarge Jr. was born on March 5, 1956, in Detroit, Michigan. His father was Robert Bobby DeBarge Sr. was married to Irene DeBarge and had 5 other children with another woman while he was still married to Irene DeBarge. Bobby DeBarge Sr. was a white man in the Army and Irene DeBarge was an African-American woman who sang and wrote gospel music. According to reports, Robert DeBarge Sr. had 5 other children with another woman while he was still married to Irene DeBarge. Bobby had a very hard childhood and was traumatized by it. His father would beat him up and take advantage of him by taking away his innocence. When Bobby was 15, he started using heroin and was hooked on it for the rest of his life. Bobby's parents got divorced and separated in the early 1970s. He and his family then moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was said that Bobby's father, Robert DeBarge Sr., was a very violent man who would often attack his wife. Bobby was very good at playing instruments and singing, so he and his younger brother Tommy DeBarge started playing in local bands. In 1975, Bobby teamed up with Gregory Williams, a former schoolmate who also lived in Grand Rapids, to form a group of musicians who would get together and make music. They tried out for White Heat, a background group led by famous musician Barry White. After a successful audition, White Heat signed them, and later that year, they released their first album. The next year, Barry White fired all of the musicians from the band because of high taxes, leaving only one. In 1976, they formed Hot Ice, which included Bobby, his brother Tommy DeBarge, Gregory Williams, Philip Ingram, and other musicians. They recorded an album called Hot Ice, which included a song called Please Don't Let Me Go, which Bobby wrote and sang. The piano player on this track was released in Poland, Germany before it came out in the US and Canada on Source Records and MCA Records as Smash in 2005. Burns Records re-released the Hot MLE Groove album still in 1976. Bobby decided to go back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. He felt like his music career hadn't reached its peak yet, so he turned to drugs more. When White Heat broke up, Gregory Williams stayed in Akron and looked for other musicians, such as Philip Ingram, Tommy DeBarge, MC Clark, and others, while he was trying to get over his drug use. Gregory Williams put together a new band and recorded a demo track with it. He then took it to M-Town Records because he wanted the group to be signed by the label. At the time, M-Town Records was one of the best record labels you could get. The new group was called Switch because the members could easily switch between instruments and play them well. Gregory Williams asked Bobby to join Switch and also asked him to stop using drugs. Bobby agreed to Gregory's terms and joined the band. Bobby DeBarge and his younger brother Tommy DeBarge joined the group Switch because he saw it as a chance to start his own career. In 1978, just a year after signing with MTV Records, Switch released their first album. The album included the song There Will Never Be, which Bobby wrote and was produced by Jermaine Jackson. In fact, the whole album was produced by Jermaine Jackson, and Bobby's song earned the album gold status. The album also included the great ballad, I Want to Be With You In. This ballad, Bobby and Philip Ingram were the lead vocalists. The following year, the GRP group released another album, Switch 2, which was also produced by Jermaine Jackson. The Switch 2 album also managed to hit gold status. This album included the hit song I Call Your Name, which was also penned by Bobby. Switch would later on become a recording and performing attraction. The main reasons this group was successful were its top-notch musicianship and Bobby's multi-octave vocal range, which made him one of the band's key attractions. In 1980, the group released their third album, which was titled This Is My Dream. This time, the album wasn't produced by Jermaine Jackson, but by Bobby DeBarge, Judd Sims, and Gregory Williams, who were all founding members of the group. This album also went gold, just like the other two albums, Switch and Switch 2. The album included the song Love Over and Over Again, which was a big hit. At that time, Bobby had started using drugs again. Now he was using cocaine instead of marijuana, after being sober for years. Bobby was already starting to get clean, but this was a bad sign. Backsliding was so bad that it caused tension between him and his bandmates. When Switch released their fifth album, Switch V, in 1981, things got even worse between Bobby and Switch. The M-Town record label offered Bobby a solo contract, and he decided to sign it. The deal was finalized in 1983. By that time, Bobby was already a well-known name in the music industry. He was in charge of his siblings' albums on DeBarge, and when the DeBarge group made their first album, Bobby was in charge of co-producing it and co-writing the song Queen of. Bobby sang some falsetto ad-libs near the end of recording Queen of My Heart on his third album, which was produced by Bobby's younger brother DeBarge and included the song In a Special Way. By 1987, DeBarge and their older sister Bunny DeBarge had decided to leave the DeBarge group to pursue their own careers. DeBarge had the best solo career of them all because he was just as talented as his brother Bobby. At that time, Bobby was having trouble improving his career as a solo artist, so he quit the group. When Bobby and his younger brother James DeBarge decided to split the lead vocal roles on the Rhythm of the Night album project, it seemed like he had finally found something good for himself. But things would take a drastic turn, and his life would be turned upside down. In 1988, while he was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Bobby was arrested for drug trafficking and given a 5-year prison sentence in Wisconsin. After serving his sentence, he was finally released, and Bobby was back to. He was recording good music and even getting to perform at different events, but he was also dealing with AIDS. He was said to have contracted the virus in the late 1980s, before he was even sent to prison in Wisconsin. At that point, Bobby finished his last album, which was called It's Not Over, even though his health was really bad. Unfortunately, Bobby wasn't there to see his last album sell independently. In his personal life, Bobby used to date LaToya Jackson, the 5th child of the Jackson family. In the Switch ballad You and I, Bobby talks about a song. Bobby wrote You and I in response to LaToya Jackson's song Nighttime Lover. Unfortunately, Bobby's feelings for LaToya eventually faded, and he and LaToya decided to break up. Interestingly, Bobby's brother James DeBarge was also in a relationship with another Jackson sibling, Janet Jackson. They got married, but their union was annulled less than a year later, after Bobby broke up with LaToya Jackson. Bobby married Terry. Bobby and Terry got married on December 10, 1990. Bobby had 2 children from his marriage to Terry, Christian and Bobby. There were rumors that the 3 of them were. Some reports say Bobby got HIV from having sexual relationships with other men, while others say Bobby got HIV from injecting drugs while on TV1. On July 31, 2017, Bunny DeBarge wrote on Facebook that her brother Bobby was bisexual, which wasn't his choice, but he wasn't a punk either, and a slate must be clean. It wasn't in a bad way. There was a lot of unfairness in the way a false picture of me was painted of me in public, so I'm keeping the promise my brother made to me. It's not over. It's not clear if Bobby was really bisexual based on the conversations between Bunny DeBarge and Gregory Williams. He had never publicly admitted to being bisexual. Before joining the DeBarge family musical group, Bobby was in bands like Hot Ice and Switch. The DeBarge family musical group was formed in 1979 with DeBarge, Bunny DeBarge, Randy DeBarge, and Mark DeBarge as the members. Bobby DeBarge joined his siblings in 1987, and his brother Chico DeBarge joined them a year later. In 1988, Bobby was the most talented and gifted member of the DeBarge family. He could sing, write songs, and produce records well. Berry Gordy, the founder of M-Town Records, once called Bobby the most talented artist I have ever signed. Gordy wasn't the only one who saw Bobby's talent. Music producer Benolo also said that he had never heard anyone sound quite like Bobby, and that he was in a league of his own as a musician. Bobby had a lot of talent, but his life was full of tragedy after tragedy. These tragedies may have been caused by the trauma he experienced as a child. When Bobby started using drugs in the late 1970s, he couldn't find his way out of that terrible world. Bobby said that his father, Robert DeBarge Sr., took away his innocence when he was a child. His brother, Chico DeBarge, would later say that Bobby's father did the same thing to his brother. According to other reports, Bobby got into this bad place because of the influences and temptations that came with fame. But Bobby started using illegal drugs when he was 15. At that time, Bobby wasn't famous and his music career hadn't reached its peak. It's unlikely that Bobby got into this bad place because of the influences and temptations that came with fame. Out of all of his siblings, Bobby was the first one to give into the terrible world of drug use because he made it a habit. According to a report from Vibe, Bobby started using these drugs when he was a teenager. At the time, he was making music with Switch as one of the 2 lead singers, along with Philip Ingram. Switch was a group of talented people who could sing or play more than one instrument. Bobby sang lead vocals and played the keyboard and drums when he joined his siblings in the family musical group. His untimely death would cause pain to his family members and his siblings. They released the famous track Rhythm of the Night in 1985. It seemed like they were destined for greatness, but the amount of darkness awaiting them would not be overpowered by any light. In the year 1988, Bobby, together with his brother Chico DeBarge, along with 4 other people, were arrested for trafficking illegal substance. Bobby had gone from using the substances to being a supplier and distributor. At that time, what all started as fun and games became both an imprisonment of a habit and an imprisonment in jail. Bobby was arrested in Grand Rapids, Michigan with the other 4, and his brother. They all appeared. Bobby DeBarge got 5 years in prison, and his brother Chico got 6 years. Bobby and Chico's imprisonment ended the DeBarge Music Group in 1989. According to reports from UPI, Bobby and Chico DeBarge were planning to bring coke into Michigan illegally. The brothers were supposed to bring more than 2 pounds of the drug from Los Angeles before they were caught during a passenger inspection at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. Chico, along with Bobby, was sentenced to 6 years in prison. According to an article shared by Lovely T.I., Bobby got some shocking news while serving his 5-year prison sentence. He had HIV. His former schoolmate Gregory Williams, who was also in the band Switch with Bobby, said that Bobby's last years were hell. He was separated from his wife and kids and acting suspicious of everyone. Bobby knew that his life was pretty much over as his health got worse and he spent more time away from his family. He got a very bad virus while he was in Wisconsin prison, but the most reliable source says it was from using drugs intravenously. At that time, there were no effective medicines for fighting the virus. Bobby's former classmate Gregory said he was always very sensitive and shy, and Mr. DeBarge mistreated him a lot. Drug use became his main way to escape. Before he died, Bobby recorded an album called It's Not Over. After the album came out, he realized it was over for him, so his family put him in a hospice. Robert DeBarge Jr. died in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on August 16, 1995, after suffering from health problems related to AIDS. Bobby died just 2 weeks after the release of his last album, according to his obituary and Find a Grave. His death was caused by his long-term drug use. Bobby's body was buried at the Garfield Park Cemetery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. When Bobby died, his siblings talked about how much he influenced their careers. El DeBarge talked about his brother's talent and influence, saying that Bobby was the real star. He taught me everything I know about music. He was a musical genius. Without Bobby, there wouldn't be DeBarge. He was the heart and soul of our music. His sister Bunny DeBarge would talk about the struggles of her brother Bobby, where she would say, "We all had our struggles, but Bobby's were the hardest. His addiction took a toll on him and on all of us." Speaking about Bobby's charismatic character, James DeBarge said Bobby had this incredible presence. When he walked into a room, you felt it on stage. He was mesmerizing. Bobby DeBarge III, who is the son of Bobby DeBarge Jr., grew up to be a musician like his father. His cousin Christina DeBarge, daughter of James DeBarge, Andrew DeBarge, son of Tommy DeBarge, and El DeBarge Jr., son of El DeBarge, make up the new generation of the DeBarge musical family. After Bobby DeBarge's death, his family confirmed some shocking rumors that had been going around about Bobby and his family that would leave the world in a sad mood. One thing to keep in mind is that it wasn't just Bobby DeBarge who started using drugs in his family. Bobby was the first person in his family to do drugs, but his siblings would follow suit, starting with Chico DeBarge Bunny. As a matter of fact, the whole family went through the same drug crisis. It was like drug use was a curse on the family. Their mother, Erlene DeBarge, talked about how her son El DeBarge's drug use paralyzed him. In an interview with the Atlanta Daily World, Erlene DeBarge said that her son just couldn't deal with all the fake people in the music industry who were ripping him off because MGM had taken all of his publishing rights and was still making money from those songs. Chico DeBarge talked about how their father went off on her. Chico talked about Bobby and said that Bobby was in a lot of pain and was very angry about it. You could hear that pain in Bobby's music. When asked about his ex-wife and the claims that he abused his children, Robert DeBarge Sr. began by talking about his ex-wife's story. He said, "She has the right to her opinion. I don't think that I was at all. I don't speak a lot against her because she's the mother of my children. It's best for the kids not to know that Robert DeBarge Sr. was a terrible dad to his kids and a terrible husband to his wife." When asked about the claims that he took away his kids' innocence, Robert DeBarge Sr. acted like he was shocked by them and denied the accusations against him. At the time that Robert DeBarge Sr. was saying this, he was very sick and using an oxygen tank to breathe. His voice was as dry as sandpaper. However, Another DeBarge would make similar accusations against their father, just like Bobby said that his father. His sister Bunny DeBarge also said that her father took advantage of her. Bobby DeBarge's brother James DeBarge also confirmed that his father did the same thing to Bobby. But Bobby would take out his anger on his younger brother James by physically attacking him and taking advantage of him. In an episode of Life Changes, James DeBarge confirmed that his brother used to force himself on him. Bobby DeBarge and his brother Tom DeBarge quit their jobs to join their siblings and help them with their music. L. DeBarge, Tommy's brother, talked about him and Bobby and how they help each other in their music careers. Tommy DeBarge died on October 21, 2021, after a long illness. He was a loving, gentle soul, a devoted son, a beloved husband, a beloved father, a grandfather, and one of the best brothers anyone could have asked for. His legacy will live on in the hearts of all those who loved him so much, as well as in the beautiful music he made with our brother Bobby and the rest of the musicians in the famous R&B group Switch. Tommy DeBarge and Bobby DeBarge are now together again, safe in the arms of our Lord Jesus Christ. Our hearts are still heavy because we will miss him so much. Bobby DeBarge was a famous musician, but bad decisions he made in his life and trauma he experienced as a child led to his downfall and death. It's sad how small choices can have such a big effect on someone's life. For Bobby, it only took one drug use when he was 15. That one use led to more. And before he knew it, he was deeply in a pool of drug use that he couldn't get out of. Many people loved Bobby DeBarge for his famous voice, his ability to play many instruments, and his charm. Bobby was a musical genius, and whenever he held the mic to sing, it was like he was holding a magical wand because his voice was so magical. His family lost a brother, a father, and a son all because of his drug use. The world lost an iconic musician all because of drug use, which was a curse that hit the DeBarge family. The problem of drug use knows no boundaries. It has been an international disaster, the rich and famous as well as the poor. The only way to escape this problem is to not use these drugs. Even though Bobby's life wasn't very long, his music would last forever and his story will be told to future generations.